Peace to the saints. Please confirm that you are hearing the audio loud and clear coming in through the microphone that I am holding in front of me. Today, we have one of my favorite sessions, which circles around success. And this is an especially appropriate time for me to talk through this because I have a lot of deals on the table, a lot of things that are going my way. I just got off of, nearly 28 hours of flying straight, and not straight on one airplane, but you understand. And I'm still kicking, had a full day, and I'm still here putting in this work. After this, I'm gonna look over a couple contracts and, you know, get to business. And every now and then I gotta just look in the mirror, like, use a hell of a, excuse my French, but use a hell of a nigga, because 99.9% of people wouldn't be kicking right now. You dig? Even chick was like, "Hey, you said you wanted to check out that salsa venue." I was like, "Yeah, let's go." Did that too. So I've done it all today, ladies and saints, and I have a great lesson to deliver to you today. I do have my notes, and so you'll have some very well thought out, organized points that'll be shared with you that'll carry you through for a lifetime. Though extemporaneously I can speak better than all of the other YouTubers, I still took out the time to write out these notes because this that I'm going to share is that important. I want it to be very clear, concise, well organized, because it will make the difference in your success. So that is my gift to you all today. And for those of you who would like to support my work, I appreciate all of you, and shout out to the members. I know some people are having trouble accessing thesassin.com, THESASN.com, but you should be good to go right now. We just got that tied up. And also, I know that some folks may have been looking to access the Dr. Phil questions. I'm going to do a repost of that. And it's not only the questions, there's actually additional video content circling around the Dr. Phil approach that you'll be able to access. We're going to repost it at the top because some people are having trouble finding it. So keep an eye out for that. And there is an exclusive I did about a day and a half ago. It was a pre-record exclusive. It's already uploaded on Vimeo. I haven't put it on the member site, so you're going to be getting that too. And that's powerful stuff. I really want you guys to meditate on that and put your thoughts below, because it's some pretty serious stuff and some serious game and perspective. And thank you to the intellectuals. You guys are the ones who support this segment and these kinds of segments. And if someone can let me know what time it is in the Pacific Standard Time Zone, I'd be curious. Shout out to Saint KH comes in via super chat. Very first person to come in. He writes that he emailed his question. I do have his question already pulled up, and so let's go ahead and take a look. He writes, "Could you critique my LinkedIn?" And I'd be more than happy to do so. I assume that you don't mind me showing it to everyone here. So I'll go ahead and pull it up. But first, I want to give you and everyone watching a piece of critical information. Generally, people have a LinkedIn and they utilize it to network, to get job opportunities, to collaborate. It is your professional front, so to speak. It's your public resume. And having a very solid LinkedIn is smart. What's even more important are the number of connections that you have to people who are worthwhile, and also the skills you've been endorsed for. So we'll talk about that. And one thing I really have to put out there before we even go through this LinkedIn, which is to say it's a representation of a public resume, which is resumes are used for jobs. The best way to get a job, and this will always be true, this will never not be true. It's been true since time immemorial, and it'll be true all the way into the future, which is to say personal relationships, personal introductions, being recommended by someone that the hiring manager knows. You could have a terrible resume and a terrible LinkedIn, but if someone comes to me and I'm hiring and they say, "Hey, Marquett, I got this kid, smart kid, comes from a good family. He's a friend of mine. Would you mind interviewing him?" I might not even want to do the interview, but I'm going to do the interview. And if the kid can talk the game, a good game, and the kid has some level of decency, I'm more inclined to make the hire. Relationships matter tremendously in getting a job. So I want everyone to know that you'd be better off to go stalk people and meet them in person than to have a great resume or a great LinkedIn, which is not to say don't have a good LinkedIn. I'm just saying That is so critical. Okay. So please pay attention to that. And I'm giving you guys all the shortcuts because listen to me. There's so many things I did in life. And mind you, I got a great life. I have a great life. I mean, right now I'm in a 3-bedroom villa and there's just one of me. I only need 1 bedroom, but I have a 3-bedroom villa and I just use one just to unpack stuff so that in my master bedroom, I can just be in there with like have it empty and peaceful. So I got a good life. But there's so many things I could have excelled at. But if I would have known this information, there's so many things I wish I would have done sooner. And that's what I'm trying to do for you is give you a way to outperform me. I want you all to exceed me. I want to have wealthy fans. I want to have wealthy followers. I want to have wealthy friends and wealthy family. So, you young guys, I hope you're paying attention. Anyways, let's take a look at the gentleman's LinkedIn. So, we have uh, his full name here. I got Saint on mine too. Shout out. And I don't think people who know, and people who don't probably don't think twice about it. The photo you have is fine. I think that it could obviously be higher quality. I don't think this photo is going to take you out of the game. I also don't think it's going to put you in the game. I think it's fairly, middle tier. The important thing to know is if you can wear a proper business suit, you're always going to win in real life and in your photo. So I would for sure want to see you if you could manage it in a proper business suit with a blank background, which you could do against any wall. Like I have walls here. I even got some art on the walls. You could do it in front of that with the art in the background. You can do it in front of a bare wall. But when you put on that suit jacket, it's powerful. And understand this, when I go out places and sometimes, the staff will like say, "Oh, I'll take your coat," or there's a coat check. If there's not a major temperature issue, I never take off my coat because oftentimes when you take off your coat and you're just wearing that dress shirt, you look like a bus boy or you look like you're at you're working at valet, or you look like you're in the service industry, or you look like you work in the Macy's department, maybe the cologne department at Macy's or something like that. Which there's nothing wrong with any of those things, but if you're trying to convey power and more importantly exercise power and be instantly respected and perceived as someone with status, keep that jacket on. And so in Khalil's case, I know that he has a number of player suits because he went on the men's drip trip 2024. And mind you, the men's drip trip 2025 is coming up. And if you want custom handmade suits, custom handmade shoes, I highly advise you come networking with honorable men, successful men, wealthy men. I highly suggest you come. We have just a couple spots left. I'm going to be going over to Vietnam shortly. I'm in Southeast Asia and I'm going there to finalize the hotel purchase. So you're going to want to get in before that because it'll be finalized. You will not be able to join after that. But anyways, number one piece of advice, I would make sure that I was in a suit jacket. That's going to upgrade you. Now, what I'm saying is this picture is not bad. It's just not good. And one thing we want to remember as we go through this lesson is that if you can do it big, do it big. Don't do anything small. Don't do anything average. So we're out here to win. So put your best foot forward. But also remember, if you're going to use time, effort, emotional capital, financial capital, and anything else, you should ask yourself, where can I invest these things to get the greatest impact? So you could invest that time in it. Like, say, if there's a specific job you're looking for, Khalil, you could invest that time in making it a superb LinkedIn, or you could invest that time in finding the specific hiring manager for the specific job you want, figuring out who you know in common or where he's going to be, what his office hours are, where you can pull up on him. I pull up on him just like he was the ops, you dig, and make that introduction. That's going to be the greatest use of time if you have a specific job in mind. If you don't, representing yourself well on LinkedIn is critical. And I would definitely upgrade that photo. I would have someone get their iPhone, put it on portrait mode, put me in front of a background that's plain, ideally, make sure, or beautifully colored, and make sure that I'm well lit, not backlit, no lighting behind me, just lighting facing my face so it lights it up. And I take that photo. So that'd be upgrade number one. Number two, in your background, your cover image is fine. Software mechatronics engineering. That sounds sophisticated. That's great. Okay, 163 connections. I don't expect a young person to have many more than that. I see that we have common connections. So in my case, if I was a stranger, I'd say, "Oh, this is good. Let me see, do I actually know these people who are mutual friends, or do I respect these people who are mutual connections?" And I'd go from there. And one of the good fortunes of being within a real network such as ours, the Sasson, we invite you all to join at thesasson.com. That's THESASN.com. I encourage you all to follow each other and join or connect with each other on LinkedIn. I encourage you to do it. It benefits each and every one of you because it enhances your network. I further encourage you to take the additional step for your own mutual benefit of endorsing each other for critical skills. That is how we make sure that we support one another and push each other forward. So, carrying on, coming down, it says, I help keep teams safe and focused on their work by putting risk concerns into context. Well, I like this for the most part, but the piece about putting it into context doesn't really sound meaningful, but that's not my industry. So if I was in the risk management industry, perhaps that language would mean something to me. But as it stands, I'm not, and it doesn't mean anything. So you should ask yourself, well, have I written that effectively or correctly? As of now, as a novice in your industry, it doesn't sound like it's written correctly or effectively. But if it is, leave it as such. I like that it's concise and it's focused on a particular industry. I help keep teams safe and focused on their work by putting risk concerns into context. That doesn't really sound like something. Anyways, carrying on from there, shows your activity. This is fine. I don't think anyone's really paying attention. Seems like you got a significant number of likes, which is very impressive. Experience, okay, that's present. Very good. It's always great to see someone currently has employment. Let me give you guys one of the spiritual laws of success in capitalism. One of the spiritual laws of success in capitalism is that when you need it, you don't get it. Yes, when you need it, you don't get it. When you deserve it, you get it. Yes, sometimes, not all the time. When you need it, you almost never get it. When you deserve it, you get it sometimes. By the way, send in your comments, questions to the PayPal and Venmo below. I will address them one after another. What do I mean when I say when you need it, you don't get it? When people need a loan, they need some money, they don't get it. Why? Because the bank or the creditor will look at your current financial situation and say, oh, this person's in poverty, or this person has a great need, or they're in debt, or they have this shortcoming. I'm not going to give them money because they need it, which is ironic. But when you don't need the money, when you have money in your bank account, when you have a strong credit score, when all is going well, then banks want to give you money. Then creditors are willing to take risk on you. Why? Because it's not an actual risk. Their money is secured. That is the spiritual understanding you need to have of capitalism. When you need it, you don't get it. When you deserve it, you get it sometimes, not all the time. What do I mean by deserve? Well, you got the proper education, you have a good work ethic, you've done everything you can to put yourself in position. You use the 3 P's that I talk about: people, places, positions. People, places, positions. That matters a lot. For example, in coach class, very rarely does anyone turn to you and say, hey, what do you do for a living? Almost never. In first class, people will frequently say, oh, what do you do for a living? Why? Because they're wondering how you can afford to be there. And that's just a subtle, polite way of saying, oh, well, we're on the same level, or, you must be well off. How'd you do that? You must be good at something. You must be competent. How'd you do that? People, places, positions. And just by being in the position of first class, you open yourself up to a network. You open yourself up to a lot of things. In fact, the kind of luggage that I have opens me up to a number of opportunities. And we'll talk about that in a second. It's the subtle things that get past people who don't know, but have meaning to the people who are in a particular income strata. For example, last time I was at the airport returning home from an international trip, and shout out to my video editor. He was there too. He actually needs to use the restroom. And so he had stepped away. There was a gorgeous woman who was also waiting for her car in valet, right? Now, mind you, most people don't valet their car at the airport. It's extremely expensive, as you can imagine. Most people don't even know you can valet your car at the airport, which is to say, show up, give your keys to some guy. He goes and parks it. You fly off, come back in a week, 2 weeks, month later, and then you pay them $400 or $500 to, and they'll go fetch your car and bring it back to you. It's an unnecessary convenience. Anyways, point is this: when I was there waiting for my luggage, there's this gorgeous little blonde thing who was also waiting for her luggage. And when we had walked up, my video editor said, "Oh, hey, she has the same kind of luggage as you," which was a fact. And the kind of luggage cases that we have for each case, it's $2,000 minimum. Like you're not going to spend any less than 2K per case. So, I walk up, I got like $4,000 worth of luggage. She got about $3,000 worth of luggage. So immediately we'll look at each other and there'll be a recognition of, oh, we're similar people at some level. We're both successful or we're in the same income bracket. And so people are more inclined to hear from you. Why? Because as I mentioned to you guys a lot, human beings usually have an offer or a request when they talk to you, meaning they want to give you something or they want to request something. They want to take something from you, take your money, take your energy, take your time, take your attention. And mostly you can imagine, do they have an offer or a request? They mostly have a request. They want something. So we generally have a shield up when we engage with other human beings. But if you're looking at the guy like, oh, this guy has $5,000 worth of luggage, who knows what's in the luggage, but just the luggage is $5,000 and he's waiting on valet at the airport. So he probably doesn't need anything from me. In fact, I might be able to get something from him or we can make a mutual exchange. So let me hear him out. And so anyways, when the guy was going to get my car, he actually pulled up my car faster than he pulled up hers. And I couldn't fit both of my luggage in my trunk because of the refrigerator. The refrigerator in my car, the rear of it is in the trunk. So it makes it smaller. And so I turned to her, I was like, can you believe there's not much trunk space in here? And she was like, oh yeah, well, and then we end up chopping it up. And that's slide time. You heard me? It's time to slide. Slider. And it's a lot easier to slide when there's all of that context. I don't have to do much talking. You heard me? I don't have to try to say that I'm successful or I'm a big deal. All of the circumstance speaks for itself. And so, you just say a little bit of BS, oh yeah, there's no trunk space in here. And she knows what's up. She could see the length of the car. It's a long wheelbase car. Of course it has a big trunk, but in this case it doesn't because of the refrigerator. So it leads into some petty conversation. Then you slide the contact info and everything is smooth sailing from there. People, places, positions. Places. We were at the valet at the airport. That's a special place. People, places, positions. The luggage and that circumstance put me in a certain position to where I'm perceived in a particular way where I don't even have to say things about my success or my level. It's apparent. And then people, she's about to become one of the people I'm able to network with. Because one thing I can guarantee you, a very well-to-do pretty little woman with $3,000 luggage getting into a $200,000 G-Wagon, she probably knows some people I would like to know, right? So that's going to be very helpful, whether I slide on her romantically or I just slide on the network. Those are the things that you need to be thinking about, and also being a true opportunist. And I don't mean this in the negative sense. I mean this in the sense of, you are not blind to what's in front of you. A lot of people are seeing opportunities all the time, but they're blind to it. Gentlemen will say to me, hey, Marquett, how do you get your 3 a day done? I was like, how do I talk to 3 women a day? Well, turns out women are everywhere. They're 50% of the population. And if you're in places where there's wealth, they're more like 70% of the population because most of the staff is beautiful women. And most of the people in the building are going to be beautiful women. So come on, man. It's easy work. But you're probably not in the right places. So you won't be around the right people. And you'll never get to the position you want. Anyways, carrying on with this critique or feedback rather. So anyways, that's good to see that he currently has a job because as I said, when you don't need a job, it's easier to get a job. Just like when you have a woman, it's easier to get another woman. When you have no women, it's very hard to get a woman. My uncle told me that. You heard me? He said, yeah, if you don't like this girl, wait till you get the next one before you dump her. You dig? Because, one is so close to none. But check this out. When you're at none, getting from 0 to 1 is extremely hard. Getting from 1 to 2 is effortless, though. You dig? Yeah, because a woman's favorite cologne on a man is another woman's perfume. Talk to me. Holla if you hear me. Anyways, going to the next thing, it says rescue technician, review external rescue plans, perform regulatory audits. Okay, very good. So that's fine. Then we're looking at education. He has his GPA there, 3.28 is not terribly impressive. It's also not terribly bad. It really doesn't matter. I think people would feel indifferent about it. Frankly, once you graduate from university, your GPA really doesn't matter much. Where you went to school, and more importantly, what you studied is really what people are paying attention to. Being that is not very impressive, truth be told, I'd probably take it off. Actually, you're in engineering. So yeah, you can leave it on. So in the context of engineering, this is actually impressive. Um, and let me enlarge that for you. It does matter what you say. So for example, if you're taking a degree in political science, which is the rubbish I took a degree in, then 3.28 would be considered like quite poor. If you're taking a degree in engineering, 3.28 is very respectable. So that's fine. But all the same, I don't think it's necessary to have there. You can leave it there. It's already there. That's cool. Then you have licenses and certifications. That's fine. Then you have volunteering. That's neat. I don't really think people dig too much into this unless it's like you're being hired by a liberal white woman or a woman who's like a wife of some rich guy and she doesn't have really anything to do, so she considers herself a philanthropist. Then they might take a look at this, and this only matters if you are volunteering in an area that they are highly interested in or with an organization that they have some connection to. And this is another important thing, which is people, places, positions. A lot of folks, true story, wealthy folks, they'll volunteer, not necessarily because they're good people or because they want to do right for fill in the blank group, but they'll volunteer because it's a social activity. It's an opportunity to hang out with other well-to-do people who have a lot of money and a lot of free time because they're part of something called the leisure class. And so they volunteer together to network and to have fun and to feel good about themselves and to feel good about what they do with their money. But it's not really so much about the people they're helping. It's more so about the brand of the organization they're helping under, if you guys can understand. It's more like a social club. Like, oh yeah, we also donate to such and such. My family donates to such and such, or our family office. If you don't know what a family office is, you're probably behind. So you should figure out what a family office is. Like, oh, our family office donates to blah, blah, blah every year. Those are the things that connect people. And also, the wealthy class, they're able to discuss what they donate to, which is just another way of saying I'm rich. So when you really think about it, the impolite way to say I'm well off is to say, oh, I have 2 Rolls Royce. Like that's an impolite way to say I'm balling. The other way to say I'm balling is say, oh yeah, we support the, Red Cross, and my family office also donates to Teach for America, and we support the Global Good Fund. We make regular contributions. It's really important to us. So that's a way to say like, hey, I have a lot of extra money and, I've put this capital to work in meaningful ways. So that's a more classy way to say that. So what I want you guys to consider is that just as much as petty people would like to be associated with brands like Gucci or Hermes, what have you, well-to-do people like to be associated with certain charitable groups, which is a brand as well. And that's something to think about. And speaking of brands, shout out to the Saint in the Center drip. You dig? I think this might be on thesassin.com. If not, it's on the merch site. If somebody could dig up that link and go ahead and post this so everybody could get laced up. Carrying on. Anyways, he has a couple courses that he's taken. Excellent. So this profile is really good if you're coming out of the blue, which is to say if you applied to something, you didn't have any kind of introduction, and they go and look at your LinkedIn, I'd hire you based on this LinkedIn if there weren't any other candidates whom I knew personally or had a personal recommendation. And let me tell you guys why that personal recommendation comes so well regarded. The truth is, birds of a feather flock together. So if I'm a successful, well-to-do person and another successful, well-to-do person recommends a young man, I assume that that person comes from their network, which means he was well raised, he has good education, he has good values, he has a good network, a respectable family. So at the very least, if he comes on board in my business, he's going to be competent. But what's more likely, in addition to him being competent, he also has a network that I can access, which is valuable to me and my business. And I'll give you one example of that. And I actually got lucky with this. I stumbled upon it. I've touched on this story a couple of times in the past, but long story short, when I was early on my entrepreneurship adventure, I had an idea and I went to a startup weekend. I ended up winning the startup weekend. A young man who came on my team, first name was AJ, kid from Orange County, very polite young man, very humble young man, true humility, not even pretend. It's remarkable. Father, extraordinarily wealthy, and I do mean extraordinarily. Anyways, AJ comes on my team and he's working for me, which was funny because AJ didn't need to work. Yeah, AJ's family is balling, and he's clearly going to go into the family business. But he was doing good work, which is fantastic. Shout out to Major Mind and Soul, moderator extraordinaire. There you go. That's where the shirt is. It is a high quality shirt. You can always tell by the collar. Anyway, so AJ was working for me, even though he didn't need to. He didn't need to work. He's going to work for the family business, no doubt. Take it over. But the greater value that AJ offered was his network, because his father's very wealthy. And what we were looking for at the time were investors. And I guess he had told his father what he's doing for work. Hey, I'm doing this internship with this software startup. And his father asked a reasonable question. Oh, well, what did they do? What's it about? And AJ said, oh, it's about this. And, it does this. And the guy who runs it, went to Cal Berkeley, graduated from Johns Hopkins. He's a smart guy, really articulate. Father's like, oh, that's really interesting. He's like, I also know the CEO of Chegg. He's like, that really, your company that you're working for, that really sounds like Chegg would acquire these guys. And I wouldn't be surprised if you guys put a little bit more work into it, if Chegg would buy them. I can make the introduction. And then AJ was like, okay, cool. Well, I'll tell him. And then so he tells me, and then I take a meeting with his father. True story. I go to his father's office, which is like in this high rise in Orange County. Go upstairs, walk into this phenomenal office. There's all this soccer stuff in there. And his father's like, yeah, I own a part of a soccer team. I really like soccer. I was like, okay, that's cool. We have the conversation, and I articulate the business as well as I always do. And his father said, okay, here we are. Boom, writes a figure on a napkin, pushes the napkin over. He said, I think he asked for 10%. I can't remember. I ended up not taking the deal. Maybe it was 10%. Maybe it was 30%. I don't recall. I got some bad advice from someone, so I didn't take the deal. But he had wrote a number on the napkin. It was a 6-figure number, and he asked for between 10 to 30%. I literally don't recall. And the reason I don't recall is because I didn't take the deal. And I didn't take the deal because I asked another person I knew who was in software, who was not terribly successful, but he did not understand the difference between his position and my position. So I said, hey, this is the deal the guy offered me. He told me it expires in 24 hours. What do you think? And young man looked at, guy I know who's smart, young man, successful in business. He says, oh, no, that's too much. Like, he's asking for way too much. It was like, yeah, this is a lot of money, but this percentage in your company is a huge percent. He was like, I just raised around, and for this amount of money, I gave away like 3% of my company. So he was like, nah, that doesn't make sense, Marquett. Don't do that deal. I was like, all right, cool. So I didn't do the deal. But here's the difference. This is important. And this is why every time people ask me for advice, I always say, who are you? What are your goals? And who are you? What's your educational background? What's your family background? What's your income situation? Like, what do your savings look like, especially when they're entrepreneurs, because we're not all in the same situation. The gentleman who gave me that advice, Jewish kid, both of his parents are wealthy themselves as individuals, and then they come from wealthy families. They're very well established, they have an excellent network. So he did not need money. You see, when he raised money because that's what you do in corporations. You use OPM, other people's money. But he did not need money, so he could be selective. In my case, unlike him, I didn't have two well-to-do parents who are extremely well networked. And so I did need money. And the price of capital is higher when you have need. And I had high needs, so the price of the capital would be very high. But in addition to the capital, what that gentleman's father was able to give me, and the reason he was asking for so much control in the business, is because he's going to give me that capital, help me develop the business, and then make the introduction at a high level to Chegg to get the business acquired. So he was basically trying to secure his own investment, but also he was going to secure my future. He was going to secure the ticket to getting the company sold. So here's the thing that you have to remember in business is that you can own 100% of your business, but 100% of a failing company is worth nothing. Or you could own 2% of your business, but 2% of a very successful company could be worth $1 million, could be worth 10 million, could be worth $300 million. So you have to understand where you are and what is necessary for your path and your success. We're not all walking the same path, though we often have, similar intentions, as we are all human beings driving for the same things. Exactly. It was a bad deal for him. It would have been a great deal for me. In fact, a life-changing deal. And I hope you guys heed that story and really appreciate this game I'm dropping on you right now, because these are stories that other people can't tell you because they don't have the experience. These are true stories. Unfortunately, that one hurts. It hurts to even tell it, my boy, because I'm telling you, that could have saved me years of struggle and pain, years of it. Years. Shout out to Nick, writes tuition, peace of the saints. Appreciate you. And shout out to my captain. Shout out to all the people who hold leadership positions within this leadership organization, and they make this thing turn and grow. Shout out to my editor, very hardworking gentleman. Shout out to Jason, volunteers all the time, does excellent work. May I acknowledge Carter? He writes, peace of the saints, tuition. Like the video. These lives are extremely valuable. Thank you, Mr. Burton. I appreciate you. And indeed they are. May I acknowledge Nate? He writes, peace of the saints, my first tuition. I appreciate the game. I also got your book and plan on reading soon. Excellent. Thank you very much. And you will enjoy it very much, Nate. I took 10 years to write it, and I wrote it for you. If you have the link, someone would drop that into the chat. You can get it on Amazon Prime, which means very quick, or you can get it instantly on thesassin.com. That's THESASN.com. Just click products and you can get the ebook. Shout out to Travis. I think Travis came in via Venmo. I'll confirm that later. I'm just going to read it now because I trust him. So Travis writes, I do live events in the hotel industry, and I'm often wearing a suit. I have to agree with Marquett that when I take my suit jacket off, I look like banquet staff. Bingo. Bingo. He gets it. He writes, next thing you know, people are like, who's the white dude working for banquets? Exactly. And that's when people start asking you for directions and like handing you things and asking you to hold stuff for them. Yeah, they think you're in the service industry all of a sudden as soon as that jacket comes off. So don't do it. It's just not worth it. Perception is important. And until people know you're the boss, you got to look like the boss. You dig? Yes, indeedy. That is. And I only tell you guys what is going to move you forward. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I know from experience, not from what I've read, not from any guesses. I'm telling you what I know from experience, whether we're talking about women, we're talking about business, travel, what have you. Shout out to Travis, as I said, that I appreciate you. He sent in his money to verify a truth so that it would benefit you. That's love. Shout out to Jonathan. He writes, favorite segment, Peace of the Saints, came in via PayPal. Gwensley came in via PayPal as well. Supporting the work. Appreciate you. May I acknowledge via Super Chat? Mr. Parker writes, in your experience, how important is having a luxury car for business, networking, and women? I've seen some clips about it on my feed from various YouTubers, and I feel you are the best person to speak on it. That's correct, because most of these YouTubers have only been able to get money through YouTube. And YouTube is a rare privilege that very few people will be able to be successful at. So that's why you should hear from someone who's walked a path that is easily replicable. What I've done in business and entrepreneurship, or even as an employee, can easily be replicated by those who are focused and have serious intention. So number one, luxury car, obviously there's levels to things, right? You can drive a Mercedes compressor. You can drive a Mercedes S-Class, big body. You can drive a Mercedes Maybach, top of the line. You can drive a BMW. I don't even know what the models are. You can drive the most expensive BMW that went into production, at least at the time I bought it, which is the i8. I think they got the Alpina now, which is getting up there in price. And those BMWs are starting to look really good. But anyways, with regards to business, I think that number one, you want to drive a car that's presentable. So if your car is presentable, I think you're generally going to be good to go. But depending on your industry, it matters more or less. So for example, if you're in entertainment, show business, you kind of need a car that's showy, right? You're in show business. If you're in paper assets, you're a Wall Street guy, or you're in private equity. You're going to be meeting people, out in Connecticut and places outside of Manhattan. Driving a respectable car matters if people don't know you. People will often bring up the example, well, Warren Buffett drives an old Cadillac or an old Lincoln Town car. Well, you're not Warren Buffett. When you become Warren Buffett, I encourage you to, do something unusual that's more discussion worthy. But Warren Buffett can do that because we all know that he's Warren Buffett. So that's different. You grew up in a different era than Warren Buffett. For example, when Warren Buffett was a young man, they had the Ford. I forget what they called it. Was it the Model T, the Model? Who knows what it was called? I forget. But this is during the era when car manufacturers were less ruthless and money hungry. So what they would do is if they'd find an imperfection with the car, they would fix it. And the next model year of the car would have that minor mechanical or design improvement. So if you look at the car year to year, you can't really visually tell what year that car is. Whereas now they try to make the cars look significantly different so that people like, oh, you got the old Mercedes. Oh, you got the old BMW. And all of this foolish psychology, largely led by women and dimwits, it causes you to overconsume or feel like you need the new version. Even my mother had told me like, oh, is a new iPhone coming out? I need to get it. Why? Did your phone stop working? Does it have a cracked screen? What's going on? No, I just the new one's coming out. Yeah, well, why does your old one not work? It's a cellular phone. It's used for making phone calls, having video calls periodically, maybe maintaining your calendar appointments and checking your email. Does it do all those things still? Yeah. Okay, well, why do you need the new one? Oh, well, it's probably gonna have better camera. I was like, oh, well, why do you need a better camera? Are you in show business? Are you a YouTuber or something? You a filmmaker? So the fact of the matter is, people are not good at thinking. That's just the facts. So you have a class of people who are not good at thinking, and then you have another class of people who are unsophisticated and inexperienced. And sometimes these groups overlap. But the problem is they reference things that are bad examples or outliers. Warren Buffett is an outlier. He has name recognition. Also, when he was your age making his come up, this stuff didn't matter as much. America was not as materialistic. And also you have to remember, he was growing up in a time where you'd be a clean-cut white guy in a suit. Like, there's a lot of trust in that. There's a lot of reliability in being a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, clean-cut white guy in a suit, working on Wall Street. Like, people are going to give you a shot. They're going to trust you. Now that's just not a thing. Now that identity doesn't matter as much. It's not as strong. And there's a lot of things that are going to go into your success. So industry matters in terms of your car. But I think generally across the board, having a presentable car is fine. And I think that you can even get by with having a lower cost or lower tier car if it's like an electric car, because people think that you have some moral reason for having that car. Then when you say networking, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like, for example, when I drive the antique Rolls Royce, there's no doubt about it that it is a networking superstar. Listen, I don't even like driving to the gas station during hours where there's like significant traffic there, because somebody gonna strike up a conversation, guaranteed. And the favorite fan of that one, I guess the most common fan of that car is well-established white guys who are like 45 and older. They recognize the car. They recognize the car from when it came out in many cases. Or they just love the beauty and prestige of that car. And that age demographic, white guys 45 and older, well, those are the guys who have the money in our society. So those are guys you want to be networked with. So is it a tool in networking? You better believe it. Now, here's the thing. I might have a car that costs more than that antique Rolls Royce, but it's not going to pull in the networking value of that antique Rolls Royce, because it's a conversation piece. It is an absolute conversation piece. Having a brand new Maybach, that's more so like, oh man, that's cool. I mean, a lot of folks, I kid you not, I remember I was in Denver, Colorado at a gas station. A guy walked up to me. He's like, ooh, that's the Maybach. He's like, can I see inside the back seats? Because I know it's crazy. But those are not interesting people to network with. You feel the compliment, you get an ego boost, but you're not really interested to meet that person. Whereas conversely, the antique Rolls Royce, I remember I was actually at parked outside of Panera Bread in Summerlin, which is a well-to-do suburb outside of Las Vegas. And I was parked in front of Panera Bread. Guy comes over, looked like a goddamn movie character, truth be told, comes over. He says, that's a fine Rolls Royce you have there. I said, thank you. He says, my father has two of them. He's like, yes, he likes to acquire them, fix them up, and then sell them. Like it's a hobby of his. This is his favorite model here. He says he's also acquired a what was it he's also acquired a Phantom 5. He's like, yes. He was like, and then so he just starts talking car talk. And the way he was talking about the car, I could tell that he wasn't BSing. There's just some things you just cannot know about the car unless you have the car or you've really studied. In fact, these things, there's clubs. Like my car is an award-winning car, and so it's a part of like certain Rolls Royce clubs and has awards. And when I acquired the car, it came with the awards. Like the guy gave me all the awards that the car had earned. And anyways, funny thing, there's this one guy that I still want to make sure that everything he loves is taken away. He stole my vanity kit in my Rolls Royce, which cost thousands of dollars because it was a mint condition original vanity kit that came with the car that's in the rear center console. When you have a Rolls Royce antique and like the original, like the user's manual, for example, it looks like a Bible. True story. It looks like a Bible. It's a hardcover book that looks like it was like a proper printed textbook of some sort. And because Rolls Royce goes out of their way to make everything really impressive and solid. So there's just so much to talk about. It's a conversation piece. It's great for networking. And then with women, now here's something I really want you guys to pay attention to because I know this for a fact. You get diminishing returns with women. Here's a funny thing. So my i8 $180,000 car, a Corvette C8 is like a $70,000 car. I think it's like $60,000 to $70,000, which is to say it's like less than half the price of the i8. When we're driving, if one pulls up next to me and a woman is looking at the two cars, she's kind of like, oh, those are both really cool cars. Those are both really impressive cars. And I think she's probably impressed at the same level, maybe until like we're getting out of the car and then my doors open vertically and the C8 doors open regular. At that point, then yeah, I'm winning and the vagina's a little bit more wet. But generally speaking, she's going to look at those two cars because she knows nothing about cars. She doesn't know the difference in price. She doesn't know the difference in category of the cars or the difference in brand strength. And she's just looking at them. It's like, oh, those are two cars. They both look exotic. They look fancy. They look expensive. So you're getting diminishing returns. So if I was buying a car just for how it's going to do with women or even like certain types of networking, I for sure buy the C8 for 60 to 70,000 as opposed to buying the i8 for 180,000. And only the people who can actually afford those cars know the difference. So with regards to women, they're mostly broke. So they don't know the difference. It doesn't matter. You get to pull a fast one on them. Now, here's the thing in terms of people like guys who have money and are into cars. Well, yeah, it matters. Like they're going to look and they're going to know like, okay, that car is 60 to 70,000 and that car is 180,000. Big difference. But most people are not going to know that difference. So if you're talking about women, yeah, it's diminishing returns. And let me tell you another funny thing that I discovered with women. So you're driving exotic cars, which are fast cars. So they're low to the ground. They'll like the car, but after they get in it 2 or 3 times and, their hoo-ha is showing because they got a short skirt or a short dress on and they got to get really low to get in and out. And it's not like necessarily like a luxury experience inside. Eventually they'll say like, oh, can we take the other car? Do you want to drive the other car? Like, oh, why don't we, they don't even want to drive in it anymore. Like it looked cool the first couple times they got in it. Like they got to be seen by the public or by their friends and family. And now they're like, okay, well, let's take the Maybach or let's take the Rolls Royce. It's more comfortable. So there's diminishing returns on that stuff. And those are the kind of things that you can only know through experience. Like who would have thought that women would be like, oh, I don't want to be in a $180,000 car because it's low to the ground and it's inconvenient for me to get in and out on heels wearing a skirt or a dress. Who would have known, right? Like I would have never estimated that because I don't wear skirts or heels or dresses and I don't think about things like that. It's experience. So anyways, he writes, I've seen some clips about it on my feed from various YouTubers, and I feel you'd be the best person to speak on it. You're correct. And these guys are probably talking about their little nerd friends or like these girls who are harlots. But the truth is women who come from well-to-do families, they don't really care so much about the specific type of car you have. If your car is presentable, like, it's like a solid car, you spend a decent amount of money on it and it's clean and runs well. I think that's all that matters. So yeah. Long story short, if it were me and I was on my come up and I had some capital to allocate, I'd much rather allocate it to a product-based business as opposed to like a car. And remember, networking is most effective when you have an offer or a specific request in your industry from someone who's also in your industry and will find what you're talking about or working on to be interesting. So I would not even consider investing money in a car for any of the purposes outlined above, namely business networking or women. Shout out to Peter. He writes, first live I got to watch while at work driving this rig. Peace of the Saints. Idiot. Oh man, be safe out there, and we appreciate you. We appreciate all the truck drivers that support the work. You guys really are the engine of our economy. Shout out to TK the Preneur. He writes, peace to the saints, tuition, keep leading from the front. Sir, yes, sir. I acknowledge the swarthy wizard writes, peace to saints, Sir Burton. How would your life be an impact? How would your life be? How would your life be an impact with a strong father figure in your life? Maybe there's a typo there. If you wouldn't mind rewriting that, I think there might be a typo there. I just want to make sure I answered the question that you're really trying to ask me. Shout out to Melvin. He writes, support to the big boss. Appreciate you. I also acknowledge Armand writes, you mentioned there's always opportunity regardless of where you are. That's mostly true. What method would you advise a young man in today's time near a major city trying to influence a woman to go out and bring you money back from? I'd advise you probably not to do that in general. So, number one, to be clear, my public advice is to not do that. But if we were speaking hypothetically, we can talk hypothetically or in a fairy tale world. I'm just going to reread the question. What method would you advise a young man in today's time near a major city trying to influence a woman to go out and bring money back from tricks? Well, you'd have to tell me precisely what the challenge is. So is the challenge is she's willing to do it, doesn't know how to do it, doesn't know what the methodology is? Is it that she is not willing to do it? So there's a number of questions embedded in that. The first thing you want to do is this with anyone, when you want them to enrich you, very few people are going to do something selflessly or for you, for your benefit only. So the first thing you have to do is let them know that you and I are one. We are the same. We are family. And in the work that you do, it benefits the family, which is to say you as well as me. So that's start one, which is to let her know that you are of one flesh. Shout out to Major Minded Soul. He writes, we have 2 new members in my section, and we all got together for a great workout and some really solid sparring. Very good. I'm blessed to be a part of this community, Sass or nothing. And I hope you guys use mouthpieces. And shout out to Major Minded Soul because he actually produces mouthpieces. If you do spar, always use your mouthpiece because similar to a car, your smile is a meaningful calling card and way that you can be represented. So check out Major Minded Soul. He has a great Sasson mouthpiece. You can get it at thesasson.com. That's THESASN.com. Shout out to Alex. Right. Shout out to the big homie. Thank you for the consistent knowledge and wisdom. Indeed, wisdom. My pockets have been prospering and I've been working on my 3 days. There you go. That's good to see. Happy for you. And okay, did St. KH come back in with another question? Is that what's going on there? No, it looks like these have come out of order. So you have to forgive me if somehow I miss one of these. The software is failing. Anyways, none of the above writes, what's a great strategy to network / game women that are wealthier than you? Trust fund babies, daughters of wealthy class, rarely career women. I think you address networking with wealthier men, but please revisit. Yeah, so actually, I think I have done at least 3 separate videos on networking and getting wealthy women. There are certain places that you're going to find them, places where you really can't be unless you can afford to be there. So your best bet is to be on the scene. For example, if you're in Monaco, any woman that you find there is either a sugar baby, married to or dating a wealthy man, or the daughter of a wealthy man. So any of those women that you encounter is going to be one that's going to fit into this category. There are a number of places like this, whether it's Monaco or it's some parts of Dubai, or it's Nice or the south of France or the Cannes Film Festival or a gala. there are certain galas where, it's $3,000 a plate, and that's just the start. That's just to get in and have the privilege of bidding on fill in the blank, or the privilege of, donating or buying a raffle ticket for another 15,000. So when you're in those environments, you'll be exposed to those women, um, people, places, positions. You have to put yourself in the right places. And even one of the simpler, easier to access ways to do that is to observe who the serious shoppers are, like the women who are like not browsing, but actually going in to cop in places like Hermes, where it costs like some serious bread to cop anything. There's like really not much in there that's cheap, or Goyard. And these kind of things, you really want to figure out, well, does she have an account with this particular brand? Meaning she's actually purchased things, as opposed to just being a window shopper or a one time buyer. And there are ways to find these things out, but that's a good start. And those women will be great women to have. And the good news is that they're actually easier to game up than average females, because average females are unintelligent. And because they're unintelligent, there's not much to interact with, because there's not much in here. So you have to keep up the whole conversation by yourself single handedly. And wealthy women have experience, they're well traveled, they'll typically have college education. And so they can engage you. It's a much better outcome. Shout out to Marcos. He writes, "Peace to the saints. I was rewatching the Charles Manson live today, bro. That is a cold one. Listen to me. That's some real game." And for the gentleman who had that question earlier about the young lady going out and getting that bread, he might want to check that one out. That one is for the members at thesassin.com. That's THESASN.com, or any of the member sites. You can access that one. Highly recommend it. He writes, "I was checking out the Charles Manson live today, and I have to say it's top 10 from all of your work. Thank you for creating evergreen content we can refer to as needed." Indeed. That was good game. He writes, "My apologies. If you had a strong father in your life, how would your life have been different?" We can't be certain on that. My good fortune is that my single mother, or lonely mother as I prefer, my lonely mother did not raise me alone. So I was really fortunate in that. For example, and you'll read this in my book, The Black Box, and anyone who's kind of like maybe a bit fuzzy on these details, you can pick up The Black Box and maybe get a greater sense of what we're talking about. My grandmother lived across the street, literally, not figuratively, not like across the street and down the block, or no, but literally across the street, like it's like a 30-second walk on foot. And so I had the experience of someone who had wisdom and also who had time. She was retired, so she had time to impart old values, timeless values. Every weekend, I went to my uncle's house and stayed the weekend nights every weekend. That's a huge influence on my development. My uncle's a masculine man. He's a man of order. Huge impact, such that, people would say that I look like him. Like, they would think I'm his son. And in fact, truth be told, to this day, I still look like him more than his actual son. It's just, how genetics worked out. But anyways, point is, I was not raised alone, even by a lonely mother. My mother was one of 9. So half of the kids were boys. Actually, more than half. 5 out of the 4 were boys, male children. So I had my Uncle Elvin, my Uncle Bill, my Uncle Steve, my Uncle Jimmy, and so on. So the point is that I had a lot of influence, like direct by males, direct observation, direct knowledge given. And, my best friend's older brother was always in my life as a mentor, Kevin, who's now deceased. And he was much older because he was from a different marriage. So he was, again, like a father. So I'm very fortunate. Now, if I had a standard, or not standard, but a typical nuclear family with a father living in the house, what would that have been? One can't predict. But one thing I know for sure is that having the absence of that in the house definitely made me more vigilant, more maybe more aggressive, and also, like, I always had the certainty that for the most part, you know, I'm on my own and I got to get things done. I can't appeal to a higher authority. I can't, let this greater authority or this greater force come get things done. I got to get it done myself. And so that for me created an unstoppable drive in me. I think if I'd have nuclear family with a proper father, I probably would have engaged in a lot less crime. That's for sure. Well, yeah, assuming my father wasn't a criminal. In my case, my father was a criminal, he was a drug dealer. So a drug dealer is not going to tell you not to sell drugs for the most part. At least they're not going to tell you in a credible way. So if my father was in my life on a regular basis as opposed to being in prison and he wasn't a drug dealer, then yes, I'm sure I would have committed less crimes, taken fewer risks in that area. But as it turns out, my father was a drug dealer and was he didn't make his money. It wasn't a W-2 guy, let's say. So, but you can't say. And one thing I advise real men to do is meddling in the what ifs of your life is not going to get you anywhere. It's a bit idle. There's so many what ifs. Like, for example, my mother didn't breastfeed me. And breastfeeding is going to give you the greatest of nutrients, specifically designed for the health and flourishing of a child, of an infant, into a strong adult. And there are studies that suggest you have lower IQ outcome when you don't get breastfed. So I think like, gee, mom, I could have been way smarter if you'd have breastfed me. But those are the what ifs of life. The what ifs of life actually don't matter because they never happened and they will never happen. You cannot undo things. And so, what I challenge all of you to do is to really uh, dig into the present and have some eye toward the future and get on with things as opposed to wondering, well, what if I wasn't born poor? What if I wasn't born into poverty? What if this? What if that? It's not helpful. It's fairy tale and fantasy. Thank you for that question. May I acknowledge none of the above? He writes, how can I use my lower financial position to my advantage? Well, sometimes you got to ask the right question. You don't need to use your lower financial position to your advantage, and that's not an advantage. What is an advantage is humor, charm, intellect, knowledge, style. Those are all things that don't cost much or anything, and they really do get you in the game. There have been many times I've been in events where for sure I was either the youngest person or the only black person or the only person that was not wealthy, and I had all of the attention. Well, why? Because, I came in there so dripped out, and everybody's 10, 20 years older, 30 years older. All the wives have come over like, oh, this jacket is something else. Or, where'd you get that shirt? Oh, you got to tell my husband how to dress. And, then the husband comes over, he's like, I'm too old to wear that. And now we have a whole conversation. I'm at the center of the conversation. There have been multiple investors, and two in particular I'm thinking of, that were very helpful, that they invested in me because of the wife. The wife decided that I'm the guy, and the wife advocated for me. She was my champion. And that was just because she loved the drip. You heard me? She loved the drip, the swag, the charm, and all of that. And so you're not trying to leverage the fact that you're of lower income. That's not something to leverage. That's a disadvantage. And we can't lie to ourselves and try to, go flip mode on everything. No, that's a L, Brody. But what's not a L is having a good sense of humor, being articulate, and things like that. He writes, if I'm not as wealthy, will they overlook that due to the ism? Absolutely, man. Women don't know a damn thing about money. They don't really care about money as much as they think. And let me tell you the paradox of women. Here's a paradox. So you got two guys. I wish I had a dry erase board here, but work with me. So you have two men. And we'll just since yeah, you had two men. So we'll do it like this. So you have Jude Law, who's tall, good looking, and well off. But he's busy because he's well off, and he became well off by working, right? So his wife, she's when she first meets him, oh, he's a big deal. He's famous. He's wealthy. He's good looking. That means so much at the beginning. And then over time, you know, other things begin to wear on her female psychology. So she ends up cheating on him with the gardener, because the gardener's always around consistently. He's consistently there maintaining the grounds of this magnificent estate. He's the gardener and the handyman, so he's always fixing stuff and being helpful, and he's present when Jude is not present. So she cheats on Jude Law with the gardener because he's present. And then when Jude finds out, and he says, "How could you do this to me? Like, am I not enough for you?" And she says, "Well, you're tall, you're good looking, you're wealthy, you're famous. Yeah, that's all fantastic, Jude, but You're not here, and I need someone to be here. And you guys might be listening, like, okay, that sounds like that makes sense. Well, here's the funny thing. Let's say the same woman never was dealing with Jude Law. She was dealing with the gardener slash the handyman, right? Who maintains the landscape, and he's really handy and he's very present, not only at his job for the Jude Law's wife in the other scenario, but also he's very present for his own wife. So let's say the same woman was never married to Jude Law. She was married to the handyman slash gardener, right? And he goes, does his work, but it's a simple 9 to 5 job. And he comes home every day, completely faithful, brings home the bacon, so to speak. He's doing everything right, romantic. And let's say also he's tall and handsome, but he's not rich and famous like Jude Law. And he's always there, always present. Then his wife goes on a girls' trip, or maybe she goes to a fine restaurant, or wherever she ends up at, she meets Jude Law, who's tall, handsome, famous, wealthy. And Jude Law smashes. Yeah, he smashes. And then the landscape slash gardener finds out that Jude Law smashed, and he tells his wife, he says, "Why did you do that?" He's like, "I'm here for you. I'm always here. I'm here for you. I'm here for the kids. Like, I'm a good provider. I've been consistent with you over 15 years of our relationship. Why would you do that?" And then she says, "Oh, well, things just got kind of stale. They got kind of boring. I kind of fell out of love. I feel different. I discovered who I really am. And, you know, things are just not working for me." She's going to have some explanation. So here's the paradox. The paradox is Jude Law is asking himself, well, how can I be more like that other guy who's present and he's there and he's consistent? Because that guy smashed my girl. Then the other guy, his girl got smashed by Jude Law. He's trying to figure out, like, damn, I was present, I was here, and I was consistent. Like, how can I be more like Jude Law? Like, I got to get my bag up. I got to get rich and famous so that my chick isn't stepping out on me when the rich and famous guy comes around, because I can't compete in that category. So that's the paradox, which is that you're dealing with a female, which is an unstable, unreliable creature, especially in the context of modern, or should I say recent culture in the West in particular. So which path would you go on? They're both challenging. Neither of them guarantee success. Well, if you're following the 3 sentence Bible, number 1, be yourself. Number 2, be good to yourself. Number 3, be good to good people. Well, number 1, be yourself. Go on the path that is meant for you. Not all of us really want to be billionaires. Not all of us can be billionaires. That's number 1. Be yourself. Go on the path that is meant for you. The number 2, be good to yourself. Well, if you're trying to be something that you're not, or you're not meant to be, or you don't enjoy being, you're not being good to yourself. Huh? And it's an order. Be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. Well, if your wife is a good person, at least so you think, you got to be good to yourself first, which is to say, do what is going to be best for you. So for you, it's best for you to be rich and famous because that's what you want. Go for it. For you, if it's best to have a lot of free time and not be too busy, not be stressed, go for it. But don't pursue something because you think it'll get you abroad. Because here's the funny thing. That very same thing that got you the broad will be the same thing that she leaves because of. She came at you because you were rich and famous. That's why you got her. But then she left because you were rich and famous and because you're always surrounded by women. And I think you're going to cheat and he's unfaithful. I'm rich and famous. Of course I'm surrounded by women. Same thing that brought her in, same thing that sent her out. And that is why you have to be yourself. Because if you pursued the wealth and fame to get the woman, and the same thing that got the woman got her out of there, then you feel stupid at the end. But if you pursued the wealth and fame because that's what you desired, whether she stays or goes, you feel great because you're in the position you wanted to be in. Holla if you hear me. Hear me? Pass around the collection plate. It's real ism out here, man. It's real ism going down. I'm going to go ahead and take a pause for the cause because that was too cold. Hey, how are you? Can you hear me? I'm gonna message you. I'm gonna message you. Sending your comments, questions now. May I acknowledge Jan Carlos supporting the work via Venmo? And please pop a one in the chat just to confirm our audio is still good. He writes, tuition, this live is super useful. I like to hear that. Useful. Come on now. That's crazy. This chick just said she's outside of my villa. Like, I hope she's not. You heard me? I hope she ain't. I ain't tell her to come through. Very good. I appreciate that. I acknowledge Justice. He writes, tuition, peace of the saints. And shout out to Justice. He was at the last drip trip. And it is so. Now I was looking at the footage when I was on this long flight because we're probably gonna release a little bit more of the footage that we haven't actually shared. Because I was just watching it. It was such a phenomenal bonding experience, and for me, I love when I do smaller events like that. I think we have maybe 33 people. And with 33 people, that's basically a classroom size. You can remember everyone's name. And so that means so much to me. Just to know everyone's name and face. It was really awesome. Such a heartwarming event. Shout out to Philip. He writes, I'm studying and building applications with the aim of being a back end engineer. When searching for entry level positions, most, if not all, say the requirements are a degree in computer science. That's not necessary. What would you recommend for someone who is self taught to actually have the skills? If you have the skills and you can demonstrate them, I'd still apply for those positions. And I'd also make sure that I'm networking. And I would use Angel List and F6S to apply to startups, fast growth startups. They'll be more likely to give you an opportunity. And then you can come in, show your worth, and grow. Shout out to Joseph. He writes tuition via Venmo. May also acknowledge via PayPal. Shout out to Holy Cheeto supporting the work. May also acknowledge Dominique. He writes, peace of the saints. How did you manage your finances when you weren't making much money? Well, there's not much to manage at that point, but I'll tell you what, if you get the personal finance lectures, you can get them at thesassin.com. It's episodes on personal finance, and it talks you through how you should manage your money kind of in two scenarios. One scenario is you're on your come up. There's not much money to manage. And then the other scenario is that you're established, and it shows how you should reallocate the percentages of how much money you dedicate to each thing in your life. Those are so important. And one thing I want to remind you guys of is that saving is critical. And it's not only critical such that your money can save you when you need it to, but more so that you are positioned for opportunities. If there's a crash in the real estate market, if someone needs an urgent loan, but you know that they got real money coming and it's verified, and you can get some interest and you can become a money lender. If there's a crash in the crypto markets, if there's a opportunity to buy a building, but they need a cash only buyer, there's so many things that you can do when you have cash on hand and the economy is illiquid. So saving is very important, but you don't only save when you have money. You always save. You always take a percentage. So I highly recommend that personal finance one. And it was a part of, I think, conference 3, and I went through it in detail. So do check that out. If someone has the link for that, drop that in the chat for the gentleman. He writes, "Is there a conference on that particular subject?" Yeah, actually, conference 3. He writes, "Lastly, you told the quote woman of God end quote she's from Kentucky, the Kentucky of California. Meanwhile, I'm actually in Kentucky. Peace of Saints, grateful to be an assassin." You know the funny thing, Dominique, is I saw someone in the chat. And it really made me sad because people need to do their research on the big homie. Someone was like, "I am from Kentucky. F you," and it was like, bro, like chill. Like that's not even necessary. First off, I've lived in Kentucky for many years. That's the one thing people don't know about me. Um, a lot of times my name is not on property, and so people, they try to do their research and it doesn't turn up the things that maybe it would turn up if you were researching an imbecile. So people don't know, when I ran a company in Cincinnati, I had an apartment in OTR in Cincinnati because it was very close to my office and I needed that convenience, but I also had a home in Kentucky. So I've lived in Kentucky for many years. I like the politics in Kentucky. Um, Rand Paul is an all right guy. He's fairly honest. He's not the best of, high level leaders. I don't think he'll ever get to the presidency. He's damn sure tried, but I got a lot of respect for Kentucky, and I have a footprint there. And it's just sad to see people, kind of buck up like I'm disrespecting a state where I own property. It's like, come on, man, you're one of little knowledge. Shout out to the ballers. Shout out to Mr. Mugisha writes, "I wasn't able to catch the live for the Timcast, catch you live for the Timcast episode. You made it so I watched the replay last night, and I have to thank you for the wisdom you provided in that live session. Piece of Saints, I appreciate you. Thank you." And I think that's one of those underappreciated ones. There's a lot of them that I'm just like, man, people didn't really get that one. Shout out to Hawk. He writes, "I'm hollering because I heard you. Peace to the Saints." Yes, indeed. And that anecdote that I shared is just such a cold piece of dark truth. We wish that that was not what we're dealing with on the planet Earth, but it is. And the follow up to that, kind of like, how do we operate in this world, in this dark world? The follow up to that, I'm going to release for the members exclusive. I did a pre-record exclusive about like a day and a half ago that I just hadn't had a chance to post. It's already uploaded to Vimeo, and you're going to appreciate what's being said there. Shout out to Mishay John. He writes, "Sending intuition, peace to the saints." Indeed, peace to the saints, and I appreciate your support. Came in via Venmo. And shout out to the men who stand up, pay what they owe. Much respect. And there is the link for that conference 3 information, which is going to do a specific breakdown on personal finances and what you need to do to push yourself forward. And here's the cool thing about that conference 3 info. What I really like about it is it goes beyond that. It talks about macroeconomics. It talks about, should you buy a house? Should you buy one now? If so, why? What's the benefit? And I break down the logic to that. It talks about investing in real estate on the commercial side. Just huge amounts of value in that. And truth be told, it's underpriced. And as I get time, you're going to see a lot of things are going to rise in price because I'm pricing them to according to the market. And that's definitely going to be one of them. So that'll be one that you'd be smart to get it right now while you still can. Somebody's calling my phone. Sheesh. May I acknowledge? None of the above writes, "I framed that incorrectly. My mistake. Self-talk is important." Indeed, it is. He writes, "Thank you for your wisdom. Will baller alert when I complete the mission." And you will, bro. I promise you. One of the beautiful things in my life is that consistently everything that I've set as a goal, I always achieve. And when I am on a path, I don't know how I could ever doubt myself because I've always achieved my goals. And that lets me know they're not big enough and I'm not moving fast enough. Mr. Buck, Writes, thank you for your time, Mr. Burton. I am in the home healthcare industry. That's a good industry. It really is. It's an industry with a low fail rate on the entrepreneurial side. He writes, and doing well for myself. However, I want to do something new. Oh, and by the way, shout out to James. Actually, James is in this business as well. He's over in Maryland, and I just wanted to say that out loud, just in case you guys want to link up, because I like to see more collisions among the many geniuses and hardworking entrepreneurs within this thing of ours. So I just want to say that out loud so you guys are aware of one another. He writes, however, I want to do something new. I decided to purchase Conference 1 and 2. Can I talk to you about adapting to a new industry? Excuse me, can you talk about adapting to a new industry? Really, there's not much to talk about. All it is study. That's the basics. You're a human being. You come into the world knowing very little. You change industries. You are a newborn baby. You have to study. And the way that your learning is accelerated is by sitting at the feet of giants in that industry. So anytime you can find someone who's an expert or who is experienced, they will accelerate your learning and what you know. So that is my recommendation to you, is to study, but also figure out who the real players are and see if you can learn a little something from them. And generally that opportunity comes from you offering value to them. Thank you for that question. I commend you for doing something new, because that's not easy. And that's why I always commend people who come in and say, hey, I sent intuition for the first time. I commend them because it's opening up something in your thinking. Like, for example, the ability to allocate capital, that is a muscle, a skill, that is a personality trait. For example, when you get money, one of the most difficult transitions no one talks about is accepting that you have money. This might sound very strange to you, but I mean, accepting that you have money, and at a level, you have to distance yourself from people who don't have money because their life, their experiences, their thinking is so different than yours. For example, I can't tell you how often, like, I'll be talking to someone and they'll say, oh, you should visit such and such place because everything's cheap. Well, maybe if I didn't have any money, I'd want to go there because everything's cheap. But seeing as how I do have money, I actually would like to avoid there because I don't want to be around a bunch of people who are broke. You see, so like my thinking has to be different. Also, people always look at the world from their perspective. So I remember I was in Germany with the homie, and there's a super long line. And I was asking people in the line, I was like, hey, how do we get into this thing faster? Like, do we have to wait in this line? Is this the only way? And they're pretty much like, yeah, yeah. Then I went to the front. I asked him, like, hey, how can I get in like now without waiting? And he was like, you just have to wait in the line. And I was like, yeah, but if I didn't have to wait in the line, like, how could I get in now? He was like, bro, like, you have to wait in the line like everybody else. And I was like, yeah, but if there ever was a reason, or like there's ever a person who got in without waiting in the line, how did they do it? And so I just keep reformulating the same question. Persistence overcomes resistance. And then he said, oh, well, you could buy a table. And I was like, oh, well, how much is a table? I don't even remember how much it was, but it was inexpensive enough that me and the homie bought all the tables, like all the tables in the club. Yeah, we just bought all of them and went straight in. We each had our own table. You feel me? We were together, but we had our own table because the price that it was for the people standing in line was too high for them to buy the table. And the price was high enough that the bouncers didn't instinctively think of, oh, buy a table. They didn't instinctively think of that because it's not a common thing. And so what you find is when you have money, just accepting that you have money and then leveraging the money to get your outcomes, which is to say, how can I use this to make my life experience more peaceful, easier, less stress, all of these things that are a privilege, but you have to care about yourself enough to be able to spend money on yourself. For example, one thing I regret, as I said, I'd been traveling like 27 hours. I took, in the last 3 days, I took 4 flights, right? Yeah, 4 flights. The first 2 flights were both first class flights, the first 2 flights. And all right, so the first, leave that context out. The first 2 flights were first class flights. Then the last 2 flights were not first class flights. And they're a premium economy, which shrinkflation. I'm sitting next to a woman, a very pleasant woman. And she was like, you know what? We paid extra for this. She was like, but I don't feel like there's any more room than there is in economy. She was like, my friend's back there. I almost want to ask her, like, what's the difference? Because it seems like it's the same. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And that's not what bothered me, was the lack of room. That didn't bother me. What bothered me is that there's a dim-witted old lady behind me. and she kept hitting like the display. I don't know if she was playing a video game on there or what she was doing, but I couldn't sleep because she kept hitting the display. And I just certain personalities I don't like to engage, especially in a closed environment like that where there's really no way to win. Even if I wanted to escalate it, there's only so many ways I can escalate it and win in the context of, being in an airplane. So basically, she kept hitting this freaking display ultra hard and so frequently that it was impossible to sleep. And I was asking myself at that point, I was like, Marquette, you checked the price for the first class ticket for this flight. I think it was like $7,000, $8,000. And I was like, you know what? That's like 7, 8, 9 times the price of the premium economy. I'll just take the premium economy because I am a thrifty person. I really am. But you know what? It was not worth it. It was not worth saving that $7,000, $8,000. It was not worth it. And having money, it would have been way worth the money to invest in myself because when I'm there just getting irritated and I'm uncomfortable and I'm tense and anxious, I still got to get off that plane and perform. I got to get off that plane. I got to look over a contract for more than $1 million that I'm working on right now. And I've been working on this thing for a while. I got to read through that contract. I got to send a counter offer. I got to negotiate with lawyers. I got to coordinate teams. I got a website that was attacked. I got to get that back up and coming. I got another software business where the team is stalling out. I got to put pressure on them and then hire some folks on an ad hoc basis and start transitioning the code base away from these other guys. I got emails that I haven't checked in like a day or so. So now I know my inbox is flooded. I got to tap in with my team. I got to run payroll. It just realized I'm behind on. I got to run payroll. I got so many things I got to do that if I fail on any one of them, I'm going to lose a lot more than $7,000 or $8,000. If I fail at any one of those things, I'm going to lose a lot more than $8,000. So now you understand why a wealthy person is going to spend $8,000 on a first class seat so I can get in there, get some good sleep or get some peace, and then get off that damn airplane and crush it because I got an opportunity to make 100,000. I got an opportunity to make 1 million. I got an opportunity to save 1 million. And that is why you spend that damn $8,000 or $7,000 on your first class seat and you don't skimp on yourself. You say, hey, I got money and I'm going to use the money. I'm going to spend money, but I'm also going to make money. I'm going to invest money. You leverage it as a tool. But when you have not yet created wealth or accepted that you've created wealth and you're the creator of wealth, you can continue doing it. When you've not accepted that and fully embraced that, and you're not operating from a position of strength and abundance, you do goofy things that are unproductive. And I looked at a woman and I told her, I said, you listen to me. You will never see me here ever again. You listen to me. You will not see me here on a flight like this ever again. There's no way in HE double toothpicks that I'm going to not be in first class because it's just not worth this goofball broad behind me banging that freaking monitor like she's brainless and doesn't know that I'm trying to lay down and sleep. And I viewed the woman behind me as such a low IQ person, and she probably is, that it wouldn't be worth me turning around and saying, excuse me, madam, I'm trying to sleep and you keep hitting this like so hard, so consistently. I've been waiting for you to stop, but like over hours you haven't. Like, would you mind if you would give some human consideration and empathy and just let me sleep at peace? No, she's too stupid to figure that out. Like if she had any sense, she wouldn't have been doing it in the first place. I couldn't even stoop so low as to communicate with her. The best thing I could do is extract myself from that situation, which is to remove myself from premium economy and just go into first class and just, take that $8,000. It's not an L, it's an investment. That's the problem is you think you're taking an L when you're really just investing. And if you don't know how to allocate capital, you're going to lose. You're going to be standing still or you're going to be moving slowly. You have to allocate capital. You have to be excited to allocate capital to get the most. That's what it's for. Some of you may not have understood that. Some of you are still sitting at home right now like, dang, Quet, like you telling me you rather spend $7,000 for the seat when you could just spend $800? Correct. That is precisely what I'm telling you. That is precisely what I'm saying. And some of you cannot understand. Some of you will never understand. It just is what it is. Carrying on. Give me one sec. Send your comments and questions right now, please. Yeah, if you guys can, avoid or get over that mindset that I just spoke to you about, you'll be a bad man, because you're going to escape being locked into the psychology of the masses who are essentially wage slaves by their own decision. You see, they're wage slaves of their own making. Shout out to T. Arlequin, writes, "Peace to the saints who are doing God's work, paying my dues. I appreciate you." Shout out to the real ones. May I acknowledge Sky came in with the 555. Shout out to the Saint, been supporting for a long time. Shout out to Constantine, writes, "Tuition. Appreciate you." Shout out to the real ones. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, like, there's so many things you make into a struggle that don't have to be a struggle. And the faster you can get past it, once you realize it's a problem, you'll be in such a good position. I mean, just imagine you have the money and then you don't want to spend it. Listen, you worked all that time to get money. You worked all that time to get money. Now you have it and you don't want to spend it. And here's the psychology that's counterproductive. You're like, okay, I got it. Let me hug it and squeeze it and hold on to it. No, it's going to die like that. You're going to suffocate it. It's capital. Send it out. Each dollar is a soldier that marches in your cause. If your cause right now is to be comfortable, if your cause is to be at peace, send it out to that aim. If your cause is to make more money, send it out as an investment. If your cause is fill in the blank, send it out. Keep the capital moving. Send it out. More is coming on the way. You worked to get capital, work and get more. Come on now. Or create business systems. So much to do, but really not. If you don't lose the battle here in the mind. Sometimes we lose the battle in the mind. We're thinking and thinking and thinking and not doing enough. Shout out to Miles, right? Showing support for the work. Appreciate you. May I acknowledge Charlie? Very consistent, writes, "Tuition. Appreciate you. I really do." May I acknowledge EJ, writes, "Peace and prosperity to the saints." Indeed. Indeed. And peace is your choice. That's the one that's easy. And in fact, when I had the good fortune of that long flight, it gave me a lot of time to go into deep thought, peaceful, deep thought, just go on thought journeys. And I was thinking about doing a live session on, so you're a provider now, or so you're a good provider. Are you a man now? Some people think that makes you a man if you're a provider. Men have been brainwashed into thinking that that's what makes us worthwhile. We're a provider. We make money and use it on other people. We're now a man now. We're a worthy person now. I think a lot of us need to hear about the truth, which is not that money makes you important, that money makes you anything. Money, if you can allocate it well, it can be used for things that give you peace, give you happiness, make your life easier. But money is not going to make you a man if you're not a man. Money can't make you a man. If money made you a man, Oprah would be a man. Oprah's not a man. Being a provider doesn't make you a man. There's so many psychological tricks that are waged upon us by those who want things from us. And so what happens is if the broads want you to provide for them, then they try to use something that gives you a sense of self and dignity and say, okay, well, you can't have your dignity and you can't have your sense of self if you don't support who? Yourself? No, support them. You hear me? Support the woman, support the child. So they're using that as a psychological tactic to tell you that you're nothing if you can't provide financially for them, and you buy it. Is it important to take care of your people? Absolutely. Does that make you a man? No. Does that take away your manhood? No. It's ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. But so many of these tricks, they pull over on us. Shout out to Quat supporting the work. Shout out to the real ones. And shout out to Hector. He writes tuition for the valuable game from the big homie Piece of Saints. And shout out to Hector and Quat. They both have products on the Sasson.com. That's THESAS.com. Go support those gentlemen. Quat has a cold pair of running shoes. Oh, which I'm actually going to give out. I need to message my assistant. Actually, let me see if she had posted that for me. I think she did, to get the sizes. Okay, that's great. Yeah. So I just confirmed with her that she posted for that giveaway, so we can select someone and get that sent out. And also, shout out to Hector. He got the velvet shirts out. He might already be sold out. I haven't even had a chance to check with him. He might be sold out. Okay, yeah. So we do have the sizes. So we're going to go ahead and make sure we pick someone and get that sent out to them. And yeah, I don't know if those velvet shirts are sold out. They probably are, because the demand was so high. So if you wanted one of those long sleeve velvet shirts, you can go to thesasson.com/products and they will be there if they're not already sold out. I got 2 of them just off rip when they came out. I got the red and the black, because I already know they was going to be cold. And shout out to Quad and Hector. Both of them were on the Sasson drip trip. And, it's a real pleasure to have those kind of long standing relationships. People always want to talk about, there you go, boom, he grabbed one too. People always want to talk about networking. No, what you need to understand are relationships, which start as, friendships, and the relationship goes on and on and on, and it blossoms into other opportunities, business collaborations, and, people supporting you when you have need. There you go, boom. It's there for you. May I acknowledge via PayPal. Shout out to Portia writes, peace to the Saints. YouTube keeps interrupting your lives. Get the likes up. Yeah, it gets like that. Shout out to Miles. He writes, peace to the Saints. Mr. Burton, I'm enjoying the backpack briefcase. And that's one of the coldest pieces in civilization. And let me show you guys how crazy durable it is. This is actually one of the prototypes. It's not even the real one. It's actually unzipped right now. How is it flawless? How is it flawless? This is the prototype. This is the prototype. It's crazy. And this bag right here has traveled around the world more than most people you'll ever meet. Good product, mdblabel.com. And you can see the backpack straps are out because I've been wearing it as a backpack. And, when I put on a suit, I just put away the backpack straps, zip them up in that compartment, and then I just hold it as a briefcase, keep it upscale, keep it adult, and keep it player. So highly recommend that piece. A lot of people have copped that this month in particular. Maybe I mentioned it recently, but shout out to the people who got their drip game up in a real way. Anyways, the gentleman writes, I'm enjoying the backpack briefcase. It is truly a great product. I have a couple questions. My first question is are you still doing the stream about women in the workplace and how they destroy civilization? I already did that. I posted that up a while. Maybe check in the Discord. Someone can drop a link for that one. He writes, finally, I had a family feud. Oh, and I would like your opinion. Apparently, my mother doesn't like the fact that I am voting red, and she also wants me to buy a house at 26. So in her passive aggressive way, she told my father to convince me to vote blue. You can just ignore all that political stuff. And to buy a house. Well, the question is why? There's nothing wrong with buying a house, but truth be told, if you're a young man, I'd actually probably recommend that you do the following. And I also recommended this to 2 other saints. And I think that this is a really smart idea, because I've been on a search around the world for land, and land is increasingly hard to come by, even harder than in the past. In the United States, you have the good fortune of a USDA loan, which allows you to buy rural land land might be categorized as rural, and it might not even be terribly far from a city. So you get this loan, which can come at a 0% interest rate. Um, 0% interest rate. I'm sorry, 0% down. It's like 2 a.m. where I am, and I've been up for a long time. It's 0% down, zero cash out of your pocket. And then it's a very modest interest rate. So you can buy a significant amount of land because you're a young person, you have time. Then you could either get an additional loan or you can collaborate with family or business partners or friends or what have you and go ahead and get something drawn up for, okay, well, how many pieces of property can I put on this land? If I were you, I'd probably put some, like, fully built out tiny homes on there, which is to say they have a full kitchen, washer, dryer, hookups, and all that good stuff. And I pop those down on that land and give them a decent little bit of lot space on your greater lot, and then I'd sell them or rent them out. And I think that's more of an interesting opportunity, especially on the sales side. You probably end up renting them if they're tiny homes. But it's really a great opportunity because it's someone who maybe has more of an apartment budget, but they want a single family detached experience or lifestyle. And you're going to make a tremendous amount of money because tiny homes are fairly low cost and you'll be offering something that's very unique. Not many people will be able to compete with you. Um, and you can also obviously put your own property on that land too, if you so chose. But land is just extremely valuable. And if you decided to build vertically, you could do so and really maximize profits. And you're 26, so you have time. You don't have to be in a rush. So I'd probably sooner recommend that and you start figuring out the building process, because that's smarter as opposed to being 26 and buying an I home in an I city that's going to be an I distance from civilization, and everything about it is going to be mid, and there's not going to be any real huge opportunity for return. Your mother, especially if she's telling you to vote blue, like she might not be the savviest character, so I probably skip on that advice. Shout out to Lil Cash Kid, and remember, this is one of the worst pieces of advice ever. Go into real estate. That is blanket advice. Anytime people try to recommend something that's going to work for everyone, it probably is bad advice, is what I mean. And I tell people this all the time. I had to tell a little broad this recently. In fact, I had to tell another chick this at the airport. She said, "Oh yeah, well, a house is an investment." I said, "No, a house is a house. A house is not an investment unless you're investing in the house. Like you're doing it as an investment. If you intend to live in it, it's not an investment. If you sell the house and you make money, fantastic. But if you're shopping for a primary residence, like an owner occupied house, you need to get the house because you want that house. It's something that's going to make you feel comfortable. The amenities nearby, grocery store, proximity to good schools, the weather systems, the climate is okay with you. That's why you get the house. And you ideally, if you're going to buy a house which is to own and you're going to go into a 30-year mortgage, you want to go into it not with the idea that you're going to refinance sometime soon, but with the idea that if you are locked in for 30 years, you can deal with it. You'll be comfortable with it, especially within your budget. So a house is not an investment. And a lot of people think that, and that's because they don't really understand business and the devil is in the details. Most of you guys are not Joshua, who's on here. He's on the investor side. He's not buying residence for him to live in. He's investing. That's a different game. A lot of people say a house is an investment, but they're talking about the house that they're about to live in. They got an FHA loan, they got a basic loan, and they're about to live in the house. That's not an investment, ladies and saints. Here's the funny things. You might even turn around and sell your house, 5 years later, and it's sold for more than you bought it for, but you forgot about the taxes that you paid. You forgot about all the improvements you did on the home. You forgot about the fact that when you moved in the home, it didn't have blinds. You paid for that. The backyard was raw. You had to put down turf and pavers, and you had to put a water softener in. It's like once you add all that up, you did not make money on that house. I'm promising you. Like very few people are making money on their house, even if it sells for a higher price than they bought it. And often it's not, because you're going to have to pay 3% to the seller and buyer broker. You might cover closing costs as the seller. So you're not making money on it. It's just that you're not conscious of the fact that you're not making money on it because you're a bad business person. You're not paying attention to the details. And that's just the reality of humankind, is like they ignore the details at their own detriment. And it's primarily because the details hold the truth, and the truth is sometimes ugly. Shout out to Miles supporting the work. I may have read that twice, but I'm okay with being gracious and grateful and thankful 2 times. Shout out to Johnny. He writes, many CEOs have MBAs. Okay. Which degree would you say is better for management in corporate? I think he meant to write, I'm in pharma and look to be skilled in operations and innovation. Okay. My background is in chem and I'm in med sales. Okay. So here's the thing. I've not ever found that there, listen to this. There may be a lot of people who are very successful who have MBAs, just like there may be a lot of people who are very successful who went to Ivy League schools. But what you have to be conscious of is that it's not the MBA that made them successful. It may just be like me that the successful people went and got MBAs, or they had a corporation that they worked for that did tuition forgiveness. Um, there's other explanations. What I'm saying is that I don't think the MBAs are adding enough value to the individual that is justified. And with regards to being successful in a given industry, now some industries are heavily reliant on schools and academic institutions. Like, for example, if you're in pharma and you actually want to create the drugs, well, you probably need a lab and you need connection to legit academic institutions. You'll have to run clinical trials and like you need infrastructure around you. But in other cases, like maybe you're in software, et cetera, like going back to school or getting advanced degrees is really useless. So generally, I caution people away from it if their ultimate goal is money. If your goal is money, school is usually not the way. And shout out Henry Ford as a fine example of this. But if you're in an industry that's heavily dependent on a lot of infrastructure, which is the medical industry, um, like science research based things, high tech requires a lot of infrastructure, so to speak. But outside of that, I don't recommend it. So you say that you're interested in operations and innovation. Well, the question is why? Why are you saying, hey, I want to be middle management, I want to be a CEO? Well, look at Martin Shkreli. What was his educational background exactly? What parts of that were necessary and not necessary? He did really well. Is your goal the money? Is your goal to be middle management? Is your goal to be the CEO? There's so many different ways to skin the cat. I think it's worth like really getting specific. And in a case like yours, I would recommend to you seriously to take a consultation. And it doesn't have to be with me. If you want to book a consultation with me, you can do that at thesasson.com. That's THESASN.com. But book one with someone else. And I'll tell you why. Anytime you're about to spend a huge amount of money, and going to get an MBA is a huge amount of money. And I have a sense of what MBA programs are about. I'm a paid lecturer at MBA programs, top ones like the Kellogg School. So it's worth spending a small amount of money to figure out if you need to spend that larger amount of money. So what might an MBA program cost you? Yeah, like 6 figures, right? So would I spend $1,000 to figure out if I need to spend 6 figures? Yeah, I would, and you should, because generally I don't recommend school. So I'd want to get like in a consultation, I want to get very acute about specifically what do you want? What are you seeking? And then is the school the necessary route to get there? Like you cannot become a doctor without going to college twice, right? And then doing a residency. But you can definitely become CEO of fill in the blank pharma company without doing any of that. Like, is it a legal requirement that you have a degree, that you're a Pharm D, or you have an MA and fill in the blank? No, or an MS and fill in the blank? No, it's not the case. So let's talk about it and let's figure out what the shortcuts are, and let's at least try the shortcuts before we take the long and expensive road. That's just business. Boom. It's just business. Like, and please know that people who tend to rely heavily on degrees, which are women, these are people who are path dependent. That, oh, there's a path that's been laid out before me. I'm not going to think, I'm just going to follow the path. Well, you mentioned innovation. Innovators are not path dependent personalities. Anyways, back to the gentleman on the PayPal. I actually didn't even finish the PayPal. He writes, so in her passive aggressive way, she told my father to convince me to vote blue and to buy a house. This is outrageous, just out of control woman. I don't get disrespectful or abrasive with my parents. I respect that. He writes, I respect their opinions, even if I don't agree, but they don't respect mine, apparently. It appears that way. What really rubbed me the wrong way is my father told me during our respectful disagreement, he literally told me, quote, well, I have to stand behind you while you vote. Bro, like, word? Like, I'm a grown man. That's crazy. Like, don't even talk to me like that. Yeah, that's one of those situations where it's like, if I don't live in his household, that's when I would have ended the conversation and left the house or left wherever we were, just respectfully. Oh, hey, I appreciate you, sharing your perspective. I got to get to this meeting. He writes, trying to intimidate me. And in my head, that's a big statement I don't take lightly. Yeah, that's not even respectful. Like, as a man, like, if you're actually an adult, your father at some point needs to respect you as a man. Right? How would you handle this in my position? Like, first off, there's some people that they're hard-headed, they're dense, they're not going to be a hearer of any word, whether it's a good word or not. And so, in as much as that's the case, your mother just seems like a very outrageously controlling person, just despicably so. So I wouldn't even try to appeal to her. Your father is, it sounds like, is being dominated by your mother, which that says enough about his position. So, in as much as that's the case, I would not engage any of these kinds of conversations with them ever again. I would exit the conversation anytime it comes up, and at a certain level, I'd make sure that our interactions are really based on the fundamentals of family, holidays. How can I help? How can you help me? But let's not talk politics and let's not talk finance, because I don't admire your political or financial positions. So, boom. And, there are respectful ways to say it, but the most strategic thing is just to do it. Like, for example, my mother, at this stage, she knows when I've checked out of a conversation and she knows why. Like, for example, like, she'll call me up and, like, oh, hey, how are you doing? She'll tell me how she's doing, ask how I'm doing. And then she might say, oh, your brother. And as soon as she says something negative about him, I'm like, I'm changing the subject. And if she like tries to go back to it, phone call's over. Oh, your brother didn't do this or doesn't want to. And I was like, oh, okay. Hey, you know what? I got to get on to X, Y, and Z. She's like, oh, yeah, I'm being negative. That's right. That's correct. So I got to go. Or, oh, I shouldn't have said that. That's right. Cause I don't entertain negativity. I don't entertain idle conversations. I don't entertain putting down people who are not present. I don't entertain you not taking accountability. Whatever my brother is, it's because you raised him to be that. So if you're disappointed in that, be disappointed in yourself. You hear me? So I don't entertain that. And she knows that. She respects me as a man. And even if she didn't, when I end the conversation, no one can hold you in a conversation. No one can kidnap you in a conversation. Right. So you have to exercise your rights, stand up, get up, don't give up the fight, carrying on. And thank you for that question. May I acknowledge Tony? He writes, my goal is to be able to live for free. I don't think anyone can live for free. He writes, advice from your book review, ERE. Okay. What are your thoughts on house hacking? Don't know precisely what that means. I have a hunch. I don't like the language people use, live for free. Like, oh, I'm going to buy a duplex. I'm going to live in one and I'm going to let the other person pay the mortgage for it by paying rent. You're not living for free. You've just decided to take your profit from your business and use it to pay your mortgage. You're not living for free. You're taking profit from a business and you're allocating it to your mortgage. So you're not living for free. You're still paying a mortgage. Living for free would be if someone purchased a piece of land in Dubai, and then they paid it off, or purchased an apartment or a villa in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, and they paid it off. And there you don't pay annual property tax. So there's no taxes. So it's free and clear. And then you were to live in that apartment, you would be living for free if you don't have to pay anyone anything, because you're not paying taxes to the government and you're not paying a landlord. You'd be living for free. So this is just not accurate. And more importantly, the way you're thinking is only poor people are trying to like get freebies and live for free and like, oh, I did this because it was free, or I ate that because it was free. Like, it disturbs me when people say like, oh, this is college thinking. Like, when you're in college, like, oh yeah, come do blah, blah, blah. We're going to give away free pizza and you go because you're a poor college student. Like, do you know that free pizza can get college students to show up to a lot of places? Free pizza can't get me to show up anywhere. You heard me? Like, not at all, because I know free is often the highest price. Number one, and I know free is often a lie. Very few things are free. That's just not true. That just means that the person who thinks it's free didn't do enough thinking. You heard me? If you think it's free, you ain't think enough, because it's almost never free. Nothing is free. No one's giving you anything for free. Anyways, thank you for that question. Shout out to Matthew. Good to see you, Matthew. He writes, "Hi, Mr. Burton. How have you been? I've been very busy. I've been narrowly focused on one thing. I'm starting to wind down that item, and so I'm happy to be able to think about other things. And I'm also, starting to ask myself, well, how do I accelerate and really do things big and do things differently, and operate with even greater levels of aggressiveness and boldness and no fear at all, because I'm behind where I should be, where I would like to be, and you all should feel that way." He writes, "I apologize for my absence. I deleted my YouTube." That could be a good thing. He writes, "Because it was taken away from my goals." Bruh, that's what you got to do, man. No apology needed. That's what you got to do. It get like that. I commend you. You're doing what you have to do for yourself, for your success. And I encourage you all to follow that 3 sentence Bible. Be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people, be good to yourself before you're good to anyone. And I tell you what, the more successful you are, the happier you are, the better friend you can be to me, the better saint you can be in the organization. So I definitely respect that. Ladies and saints, go ahead and send in your comments, questions as we wind down. I'll probably do a follow up on this one because I really only touched the surface of my notes, and I do want to deliver all that information to you. But I actually still have some contracts I have to read over. And as you guys can imagine, reading legal contracts requires focus. Talk about it. Free is the highest price. I'll tell you something funny. If you're really a hustler, you don't operate on a human schedule. You don't operate on a woman's schedule for sure. Shout out to Jacob supporting the work. Appreciate you. You know, Shorty is going to go to bed at a reasonable hour, 10 p.m., 11 p.m. And I'm like, oh, I feel so bad. I'm going to sleep. And you're about to stay up working. Now, you ain't got to feel bad. And this is going to be most of the nights. Yeah, most of our nights are going to be like this. So, it just is what it is. And that's the difference between being a man and a woman. That's why we're able to live a certain lifestyle, because I'm going to stay up and keep hustling. I'll be awake and I'll be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor with you. But also, when we're done enjoying the fruits of the labor, I also have to put in the labor while you're sleeping. And then I'm going to sleep and then wake up when you wake up as well. So, yeah, I go hard. And that's why I'm the man, not a man. I'm the man. You dig? Give me an amen for that. So that's just what it is. And that's why I tell them, like, hey, do your duty as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, do your duty and don't ever shirk your responsibility or step away from your responsibility, because I never step away from mine. Like when I have to stay up to do things that are difficult, challenging, tedious, when I might be sleepy or tired, or I could be sleepy or tired, I never step down from what I have to do. So I don't ever want to see you step down from what you have to do. And I'm not going to say what you have to do is easier than what I have to do. We don't even need to compare it. It's different. But just do what you got to do, because I'm always do what I got to do. And that's how you got to check these females, because they want to, make excuses. Talking to a young lady earlier today, and I said we're in a conversation that kind of had many branches to it. And I said, one of the reasons my mother was single is because she's not willing to do what is required of a wife and a mother, meaning both. So, for example, when I was a child, she didn't breastfeed. She said I sucked too hard. It's like, yo, whether it was painful or not, like that was your job and you didn't do it. You heard me? So, being that you're so willing to prioritize yourself over others at that point in your life, that's why you were not able to get a man, because you weren't willing to do what is required of the job, whether it's comfortable or not, because often success is not comfortable. You see, it's not comfortable to be awake as long as I've been awake, but I'm still going to get this work in. You dig? And that just is what it is. And that's what allows people to be successful. Huh? That's what the difference is between an average person and an extraordinary person. And here's the kicker. Won't be any complaints. I'm not going to wake up and be like, oh, I didn't get enough sleep. No, never that. I'm not going to wake up and say, oh, I wish, somebody would have helped me. Nah, I ain't expect no help. You heard me? But I tell you what, here's a funny thing. I remember this when I was setting up Assassin headquarters. I remember when I first walked into the building, it was empty, just white walls. And I knew that eventually it would be filled up with all of the great things that, make it a home for the saints. But I knew that I'd have to pretty much create the foundation myself. Like that's how things always start. If you've been a builder, you know that the first couple of bricks, you got to lay that foundation yourself. Then, once things start looking, people can see what you're building. Then like, oh, I want to join in, mostly for my own benefit. But that's kind of how life goes. And if you want to be the number one guy, that's what happens when you're the number one guy is you come in and it's a blank slate and you have to create. But that's godly. You heard me? God was a creator. You built in God's image. Go ahead and create. That just is what it is. You think you're going to get help? Mostly you're not. You got to get comfortable with that part. You be complaining about that part. That's what makes you into a woman instead of being a man. You see a woman, it cracks me up. And I'm not going to tell them not to complain because that's their nature. But a woman will complain about having to be a woman and having to do the duties of a woman. A man never complains about being a man or having to do the duties of a man. Huh? That's different. Huh? Ladies and saints, it's been a pleasure to have this time to fellowship with you. Let us end this with our tradition, the Creed of the Assassin. Repeat after me with full conviction, knowing this is true of you. The Creed of the Assassin. I am going to be who I truly am because I'm remarkable. And I'm going to strive every moment to show the greatest part of who I am. Until next time, peace to the saints.